You're watching a Facts with Fiona media production. I'm Fiona Moriarty, and this is The Fiona Moriarty Show. Hi everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the 14th episode of The Fiona Moriarty Show, Season 2. I'm your host, Fiona Moriarty. This week, we went backstage with Lostboycrow at his live acoustic show at Winston House. The indie pop singer-songwriter, also known as Chris Blair, shares the story of leaving his Oregon roots behind for Los Angeles, pursuing his dreams, and how he made them a reality. Let's go to our conversation with Lostboycrow. Hey guys, we are here with Lostboycrow backstage at Winston House for his first show here. This is going to be a live acoustic set. How does it feel going into it?
I'm excited. This is something new for me. I don't do a lot of acoustic or stripped sets often. I love playing with the band. It's fun to kind of reimagine some of the songs, and I'm going to play some unreleased stuff too, so it'll be fun.
Okay, great. So how did you come up, who is Lostboycrow? How did you come up with the name?
It's a great question. That was kind of like an alter ego I needed to step into when I first moved to LA many years ago. And I was really just trying to come up with an original name at the time. And it was very common, I feel like, at the time to have like zeros instead of O's or like dashes. Like
exactly.
It was hard to come up with a name that wasn't taken online.
Exactly.
Just as being online became more popular. So for me, it was kind of just a combination of words that had their own separate meanings to me that I combined and then typed in, and there was nothing called Lostboycrow, which was pretty remarkable to me even at the time. It wasn't anywhere on anything in any capacity. So I ran with it and kind of just took that on as my name.
That's great. So I know you're actually in another band.
Two
other bands.
Yeah.
I know the other one is 1990 Nowhere.
Yeah.
So were you Lostboycrow before you were in that 1990 Nowhere? And then what's the other band that you're in?
Yes. So 1990 Nowhere came about, I think, right before the pandemic.
Okay.
Just really organic, hanging out with some new music friends. And we couldn't help but write songs every time we went to hang out. And so it was just like, well, we can't keep doing like collabs, feature on each other's songs. Like we might as well make a band. So we did, and we're still doing it. And I'm in a different project called Asking for a Friend. With another friend, Dyson, who's super talented. And we were touring with our respective solo projects years ago, and we met on that tour, and again couldn't help but write songs together, and we kind of brought out the best in each other. So decided to make a band and put out music, and it's pretty different from the Lostboycrow stuff, but it's fun.
Yeah. So how would you define your sound as Lostboycrow?
I mean, it is
like indie, but it's also a little bit like folk, I feel like, a little bit of pop.
Yeah, it's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
It really has. I think it started off as kind of more of a pop experiment with a lot of R&B influences and some indie influences as well. And the more comfortable I became writing on guitar again and starting the songs on guitar, which kind of happened around the Santa Fe album, Valleyheart album, indie pop album. So those last few, the more comfortable I became writing and starting those songs on guitar, I feel like the sound did shift towards more of like an indie rock. Influences came out, the Group Loves, the Tokyo Police Clubs, the Built to Spill.
Two-Door Cinema Club.
All the clubs. All
the clubs. So how did you start getting into music? Is it like a lifelong thing, or?
No, it wasn't at all. But I say that not wanting to take for granted that I think music was always around. I was exposed to it in the sense that like we were fortunate enough my family inherited this piano from a family friend. So that was around, right? And It wasn't something I necessarily loved or felt, called to. I think I was forced to do a couple lessons, as a lot of kids are. But I didn't love it at the time. But it was nice to have that around. Grew up singing, whether it was like in church or in school, just things that I didn't really have to think about, like, oh, I'm performing or I'm trying to be good. It was just kind of around. So when the opportunity, came to be in bands or to be in choir much later on in high school, I think I was ready for it, and I hadn't realized up until then, until I was like 16 or 17, that I did love performing. And I loved singing. So
you're from Portland, and then you moved to LA in like 2015, right?
2014.
Okay. Yeah. So do you feel like growing up in Oregon influenced your music, or like kind of coming to LA?
I hadn't ever thought of it as Oregon directly influencing it, but there's no way it couldn't have. I think we're all kind of products of our environments, and I know when I meet a lot of people down here and I tell them I'm from Oregon, they're like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, does it? Awesome, cool. And I think it does. Again, whether it was just being close in proximity to Portland, which had a lot of my favorite bands and a lot of really interesting sounds kind of through the 2000s and the aughts as well. I think being around Portland was really influential. I think being in Oregon, every part of my environment, for sure.
Exactly. So do you have like overlapping band members? Like, are you going to be a single person up there tonight, or do you have a band behind you, working on like guitar, bass, all that?
I'm going to be a single person up there tonight.
A single up there.
In every sense of the word. Just me.
Okay. But when you go out as Lostboycrow for shows, do you have a band with you?
I try to have a band every time, and ideally I try and have a 4-piece band, including me. That's just part of the way the records have been going sonically over the years, like just organic drums, bass, guitars. So that's kind of where the sound has gravitated, and I try and take out as many people as I can, for sure.
Yeah. So your number one song is Strawberry Sunscreen. What was the inspiration for that?
Oh man, that is a great question. So that was one that my now roommate actually sent me the track for. It was just like that little guitar, those 4 chords. He sent me this tiny little demo, and
so you came up with the lyrics for it.
Yeah, well, no. Okay. So he sent me this track. It was super simple. It was just like, what do you think? And it just sounded, it was one of those rare songs where like you don't have to think about it. Like the lyrics and the energy, it wrote itself, really. So I had just started seeing someone at the time, and it was, we were going into summer, and there were all these influences, and like it felt, it kind of feels like what was happening, which is like opening up to love again, and just this carefree romanticism of life and of relationships in general. So it was pretty easy to write. Once he sent those chords, I was like, this thing's, it wrote itself. Just the melodies and the lyrics really, I think the best songs, the melodies and the lyrics happen at the same time, and that's one of those songs. It just happened all at once.
So is he in your other bands, or no?
He's helped, for sure. So he's helped produce 1990 Nowhere, and then we just made a Lostboycrow album together. So he's definitely involved, for sure.
Okay, awesome. What's his name?
Sam Beresford.
Okay. Yeah. So is he like your producer behind most of your tracks?
It kind of changes over the years, but he's definitely someone very close to me, and I'm fortunate enough to have a great circle of friends to kind of choose from for different occasions, different projects. And he and I just started making enough music together where we were like, I think we're making an album. Like, let's just intentionally finish this as an album.
And I know you did the rework with Aviv.
Yeah.
I actually even like, that female voice in it gives it another life, I feel like. So you reworked that, you re-recorded it, or did you use the first version and then you inserted her?
It was the same record. Yeah. Okay. Good question. Same recording. We maybe added something sonically with like the drums, but it was pretty much the same thing, and we're able to like drop her right in, and she fit great, and she's awesome.
Yeah,
she's so good.
So do you think TikTok had any influence on your music, like getting your music out there? Promotions, all of that?
Probably. It probably should. I wouldn't say it has up until now, but yeah, I was just talking to some artist friends about this. I'm at a point where I think a lot of people want to fight the machine or look at TikTok
like
as
big tech and apps and all that.
Yeah, as like these things that are kind of adding more work for the artist or taking away from their process.
Exactly.
And I totally see that, and I fought it in my own way for years, and right now I'm just having fun. If you follow me on TikTok, like I'm doing little basketball workouts, we're doing some songs, like we're just having fun. And I think TikTok will definitely be a good vehicle for the next album for sure.
So how do you think Lostboycrow has evolved, like from your first single to like your recent stuff like Candy Wine, Strawberry Sunscreen, all of that? Do you think your sound has changed? Has it matured?
I think it's changed drastically. And again, going back to just starting songs on the guitar with just me, and I still love to collaborate with producers, with friends, but like when the song starts with just you in the room, it's only yourself. I think that's a very special place for me, at least, especially lyrically and just energetically. So I think it's gotten to the truer sense of me and a more carefree version of myself. Hopefully that's what I'm doing every time, is just peeling back layers and things that separate me and who I really am from people. And that's all I want to do with music, is connect with people, because at the end of the day, that's all we're here for. So
So finally, what's the songwriting and composing process for you? You mentioned with like Strawberry Sunscreen, you got that little snippet demo from your friend, but do you kind of work acoustically first, or do you go right into like Logic Pro and start?
It depends. I think ideally the majority of what we've done has always been acoustic, just me in my room, no one else around, just kind of feeling out the vibes. And then for this next album, the majority of it was Sam and I experimenting with drum sounds, and then I would hop on bass and try and get into the groove of the song first, which is totally different from how I've done it. And I kind of wanted to get away from some of the singer-songwriter pockets or feels that you can slip into when you're just starting songs on guitar. So we were intentional about starting the song with drums and bass on this next album that's coming out. So that was really fun for me to be able to mix it up like that. So
when's your next album coming? What's next for Lostboycrow?
Great question. I probably shouldn't even have mentioned it. It's not announced yet. But
you heard it here first.
But you heard it here first. I'm sure it'll be out at some point next year.
Okay, awesome. Well, this is Lostboycrow. We're about to hop on stage in about an hour or so. Exciting. This is the Fiona Moriarty Show, Lostboycrow.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Fiona Moriarty Show. Before you go, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And for more behind-the-scenes footage of the show, visit us at factswithfiona.com and follow me at Fiona Moriarty on Instagram and Facts with Fiona on Twitter. See you next week.